my name's Sam Chesney, and I farm on the Ards Peninsula, which is sort of on the eastern part of Northern Ireland. We farm approximately 200 acres. Majority of us in grass and legumes, and we have a grass-based enterprise. Beef from grass, lamb from grass. We're running about 120 suckler cows, calves, 2 beef, and approximately 100 ewes. We have approximately a third of our farm nearly in mixed species swards and red clovers and things like that. And the reason for doing that is that I can see a vast shift in costs and production, especially in concentrates and fertiliser and also fuel. And by growing a bit of mixed species, we're sort of mitigating that. We're growing a very high protein crop that cattle perform very well on, and to date we've had no instances of anything adverse to their health, be it worm infestations or bloat here on this farm. So that's the reason why we're doing it. Mixed species sward we have chosen are not the full bucket list. Sort of two legumes, 2 clovers, and 2 perennials. Weighed calves last year with poor growth potential did 0.97 kilos a day. The better cattle that we're doing 1.14 on different sward, but on mixed species they did very well. Lambs performed exceptionally well. We just let cows into this paddock this morning here, and the first thing they ate was the chicory and the plantain. If you were nearly brave enough, you would put a field of plantain and chicory in a standalone to finish lambs on. I think it would be a fantastic crop, but there's no preference to it. The field will be eaten down quite well. We do eat it down to 1600, 1700 kilos. In dry weather, the only thing we had green here last year were mixed species swards. Everything else was droughted out. When Perennial Ryegrass were doing 0, mixed species were doing 45 kilos. This year we've had a better year, we've had a bit more rain about, and it's been pretty par off par, although the fertiliser requirement on the mixed species has been halved, as is everything across the board, but it's been halved again. So pound per pound the mixed species is doing better. Um, 21-day rotation. However, we have lengthened the mixed species out a bit, so it could be 28 days, 29 days, because we felt it needed a few extra days to come. Nutrient levels, well, our pHs are all very good. We've soil sampled the whole farm again this year, and I think the lowest soil we have is 6.2. So it's very important that we have a good pH to make these grasses stimulate them. This particular field here was mixed species for the first time last year, and this year it's received in total 50 kilos of nitrogen per hectare. So it's done very well. The only problem we have found with mixed species are weeds, and in particular here is thistles. We can control everything else by a steel seed bed application, but thistles are the only things, and indeed we have found, indeed my daughter's come to the idea that we should be topping it twice a year, twice for 2 years, and it seems to work with no thistles left. So that seems to be the way to get rid of thistles, tight topping for 2 years. The whole farming ethos has changed, and the environmental ethos has changed, and with the advent of mixed species and clovers that we have here, the biodiversity, maybe a bad word to some farmers, but the biodiversity and the carbon sequestration that these plants will have, hopefully will stand us in good terms going forward. We've actually changed the breed of cattle that are easier flesh, more off grass rather than off concentrates. So that's the direction we have decided to move. Nothing beats a nice coloured cow, but maybe not the bank balance. But I think the mixed species sward is inevitably going to be the way forward for grassland production in Northern Ireland. You know, we've always put a wee bit of Timothy in our grassy mixtures. I would actually go and see farmers that are doing it on the ground, and the EIP group that this is all about are doing all this research. You know, my task was to try and kill mixed species sward, kill them in the field, and we couldn't do it. So yeah, there's plenty of benefits there. I think a third of the farm is maybe enough. It's okay. You can cut it for silage, but not ideal. It's too wet. The leaves are too wet, um, too hard to ensile and too hard to preserve. I think a third of the farm is enough, because if for one reason or another, if you get it really badly poached, it'll maybe not come back as quick. Perennial ryegrass is still got the technical ability to produce 20 tonnes in an ideal condition, whereas the mixed species hasn't got there yet. A bit more work, a bit more trial work. If we can find out that mixed species sward beef and lamb is better for you, if it tastes better, if we can find out for definite that the blood levels in the animals eating it are better, and we don't have to give them added minerals to them. If we can find out that the meat coming from these animals is better for human consumption, yeah, then you would possibly go down 100%. Yeah, try a wee bit. You can't stand still. You have to try something, and you'd only be wrong once. Um, Go and see somebody in your own area that's growing it, and try a wee bit. You don't have to add all the herb. You could add one or two. You could add a wee bit of red clover and a wee bit of timothy, and a wee bit of chicory, and away you go, and just to see what happens. To me, it's very easy done. You don't even have to sow it. You could get a bare patch in the field and get a bucket and throw some seed over. It works. It does work. It does grow.